Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students in grade 9, Prep 3, language schools, and our sons abroad, today, inshallah, we will talk and discuss chapter 2 in A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. First term, the title of the chapter is Recalled to Life. Let's start with the summary of the chapter. The title, The Wine Cask. Saint-Antoine in Paris was a poor part where poor people lived in run-down houses and suffered from hunger, poverty, sickness, and misery. The ragged people were filled with hatred towards the wealthy and noble classes of Paris, who never cared for their misery. Therefore, Saint-Antoine was rapidly becoming a center of unrest. كانت مركزا لعدم الاستقرار. It happened one day that a large cask of wine dropped. قارورة كبيرة من النبيذ سقطت from a cart and the wine spilled everywhere. The miserable people ran to drink the wine that mixed with mud. The red wine made the street look as if it was stained with blood. The owner of the wine shop, Ernest Defarge, a fierce-looking, dark-haired man of about 30, was watching the people drinking the muddy wine when he said, "It's not my problem. Let the people from the market bring another cask. It's their fault." Therese Defarge, that's his wife was a rather fat woman of about his age. Her hands were always busy knitting. كانت دائما مشغول يديها بالغزل. However, she had a watchful eyes that seemed to look at nothing. The wine shop. مشهد قارورة النبيذ التي انكسرت كان من أهم مشاهد رواية تشارلز ديكنز A Tale of Two Cities لأنه له كثير من الدلالات. Let's see. Mrs. Defarge looked up from her seat behind the counter in the wine shop. When her husband entered, she gave her husband the signal that he should notice the elderly gentleman and the young lady, Laurie and Lucy, who were sitting at a corner table. Mr. Laurie went to the counter and spoke softly with Defarge. Mr. Laurie, Defarge, and Miss Manette went out of the shop. The three of them climbed a set of narrow window staircase to a small room at the top of the building, an attic, يعني ما يشبه الصندرة. Lucy Manette looked anxious, but Mr. Laurie held her hand to comfort her, saying, "Come, child, we are going to see your father." Commentary. The scene of the wine cask. The scene is a symbol of the miserable life in France at the time. كان يمثل رمز للحياة البائسة للناس الفقراء في فرنسا. The scene has a double meaning. له معنى مزدوج. It shows that the oppressed people have reached the climax of their anger. وصلوا إلى قمة الغضب. The wine that stained the street with a bloody red color predicts the real blood that would stain the street of France during the revolution. أيضا كان منظر الواين النبيذ الذي سال في الأرض باللون الأحمر كان إرهاصات للدم الذي سيسيل من الفرنسيين أثناء الثورة الفرنسية. The wine shop, it's the place where the rebellious people, الناس المتمردين, meet to discuss their suffering and plan for their revolution against the noblemen. Now let's see the questions and answers. Describe the conditions of people in Saint-Antoine, giving example of their misery. مع مثال لحالة البؤس. Saint-Antoine in Paris was a poor place where poor people lived in hunger, poverty, sickness, and misery. The streets were dirty. People lived there like animals. The scene of the wine cask shows how far people were poor and suffering. They gathered around to drink a mixture of mud and wine when the cask broke. The ragged people were filled with hatred toward the wealthy and noble classes of Paris. Discuss. Why were these people filled with hatred? كانوا مملوئين بالكراهية تجاه النبلاء. They were filled with hatred against the nobles because they cared nothing for their misery and poverty. What would that feeling of hatred lead to? هذا الشعور بالكراهية سوف يقود إلى ماذا؟ This feeling of hatred would make Saint-Antoine a center of unrest, which would soon become a bloody revolution in France. What happened when the wine cask dropped from the cart? The wine spilled on the rough stones in the street. All the people stopped what they were doing and ran over to drink the wine that was mixed with mud. How did the people drink the wine that was spilled on the street? Some knelt down and sipped every drop that could gather in their hands. Others licked the wine from the stones. Mother dipped rags into the wine and squeezed drops into their children's mouths. Question number 5. Come, child, we're going to see your father come in. Of course, these words were said by Mr. Lorry. Mr. Lorry said this to Lucy when they were about to see Dr. Manette. Lucy was trembling. كانت بترتعش أو بترتجف with fear because she was about to see the wreck of her father, بقايا أبيها. Mr. Lorry comforted her that it would soon be over. The wine stains left the street looking blood-stained. Discuss. The scene of the wine cask is a symbol from Charles Dickens on the miserable life in France at that time. The scene has a double meaning. It shows how poor the life of the lower classes in France was. It also predicts the real blood that would stain the streets of France during the Revolution. Describe Therese Defarge. She was the wife of the owner of the wine shop, Ernest Defarge. She was a watchful woman whose hands were always busy knitting. Her eyes seemed to look at nothing. However, she seldom left anything unnoticed. The last question. And he is in the same exact state he was in when his friends asked if I would risk taking him in and not breathe a word about the matter to anyone. Comment. Ernest Defarge said this to Mr. Lorry when the latter asked if Dr. Manette was alone in the room. طبعا هنا بيقول له أنا تحملت مسؤولية إخراجه من السجن على ألا يتحدث أحد عن موضوع وسرية إخراجه من السجن. Monsieur Defarge explained that the man was in the same state he was in when he left the prison, and Defarge risking taking him into his house. That's the end of our chapter. Now, my dear students, we will see a scene of the wine cask that dropped, and let's see how did people behave when they saw the wine on the floor or on the ground. Let's see. Gaspard
Gaspard, what are you doing?
wrote the word blood
Move on.
on the wall, and Monsieur Devar's prevented him. Now that's the end of our session today, my dear student. Till we meet again in chapter 3, wish you the best of luck. See you. Don't forget to put like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and goodbye.